It's showtime. Look at
All
that.
right.
Ta-da! It
We
looks
did
like
it.
the internet is working with us today, despite the heat here in Chicago.
Thank goodness, right?
I know. So, welcome, Liz. This isn't my podcast. We're just live streaming today because this week we're a part of the Kindle Flash Sale. So, welcome to come hang out with me as a fellow author.
It's my pleasure. I'm so looking forward to it.
So if you guys don't know, this week, if you haven't checked out all of our fun social media stuff going on, we are a part of the Kindle Flash Sale, and there are a ton of great books that can help you with your personal objectives, your career, with all sorts of stuff in between. And they are, many of them, just 99 cents for the ebook version. So head on over to kindleflashsale.com/Nikki, and you guys can grab copies of some wonderful books. We're going to be interviewing some of the authors this week, and Liz Lopez is the first one on the docket. So thanks for joining us today, Liz.
It's my pleasure. It's such an exciting thing, Nikki, to be a part of, but also to be a recipient of, right? Like being able to fill my Kindle with over 30 books for under $30. Like that's amazing. Like I have 6 months worth of reading, and I'm so looking forward to that.
Right? It's so funny because I just heard one of those little like infomercials on Instagram, and they were like, why do authors like try to go for other authors? Is like they're not readers. Of course we're readers. How do you think we became authors to begin with?
Oh, that's funny. Oh no, I'm voracious in my reading, and here's the thing about books for me, Nikki, is that even though it's not quite the same as living through it, right? These borrowed experiences enhance us, right? Maybe we don't necessarily have to be burned by the fire, but we can feel the heat, right? We can learn. We have an exploration of different existences, and it is mind expanding.
Absolutely. And I was reading your book while I was enjoying the sunshine over lunch today. And I'm really excited to share it with everyone. It's called Permission to Dominate Your Success. And just from the very like first part of the title and the way you introduce the topic, I could tell that you and I were going to get along and have a great time. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your book, the project, and why you contributed to the sale with this one?
Well, thank you. Look, this book was 7 years in the making, and it came from, my lived experience, but also just experiences with clients, and that at all levels of careers. I do executive coaching, so everywhere from directors all the way to C-suites of billion-dollar companies. There are just always moments that catch us. There's self-doubts, there's self-limitations, there's things that we don't even realize are barriers that we've created for ourselves, sometimes as a reaction to trauma, or just things that we were taught early in our lives or careers that have just become kind of these blockages. So even though there's a lot going on in the world, Nikki, and certainly there are external pressures, this is about the internal work, about taking out these splinters of these learned behaviors and giving ourselves these permission, this journey of 7 permissions to give ourselves, so that we can be more joyful in our lives, in our careers, and in our businesses, and accomplish the things we want to accomplish the way that we define success for ourselves.
It's so perfectly said. And I've seen this trend where it's very easy to even just keep putting ourselves in a box of limiting what we're able to achieve. And I love how your book really gives us permission to, okay, yes, that happened, but we still have to figure it out. We still have to go do the next thing. And that really takes the internal work, which is really sometimes the scarier part of it all. But you give such a really good structured way of helping people move through those 7 phases. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, you wrote a book about coaching, right? And then this one is more like the self-healing part of it, because we all need to learn, right? That there's these different approaches to how we learn what we need to do for others, and then what we need to do for ourselves as well. So I kind of feel like when you put these two books together, you have these two books on your bookshelf, you kind of get this really well-rounded world.
Absolutely. Well, and I love nothing more than just pushing people into those situations where, hey, sometimes we just have to figure it out. And you're not going to figure it out by hiding in the four walls of your office a lot of times. You're going to have to maybe go talk to people, maybe experience that, and then question why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. You may not even know. And a lot of times in my book, I'll talk about ways where I had an experience and I thought it was one thing, but it was actually something totally different that was causing that reaction. And until I really sat with it, I didn't understand that. And I saw that pattern repeating itself over and over again, much to my detriment. And until I fixed it and focus on it, I wasn't going to go, anywhere really with improving that faction. So I love how our two books kind of really pair together in that way. So what about the Kindle Flash Sale? What made you decide for this particular book to go ahead and put it in there? Because you've got other amazing books.
Well, so a couple of things kind of came all together at the same time. I am a member of Innovation Women, wonderful organization for women speakers, and I met Robbie, who's the organizer of this Kindle Flash Sale event, through that organization. This book just released in April, so there's been a ton of attention on, like I've been traveling for different book signings and speaking events related to it. And when this concept came up, at first I wasn't really sure, because, we lower the prices, we do these things. And I'm like, but then I saw that a good friend through Innovation Women, Kim Groshik, she's published 67 books and she's doing this. So I'm like, all right, Kim's doing this. Like, I gotta at least try it. And you know what? It's turned out to be a lot of fun.
That's true. I've run into Kim several times doing these sales, and I think Kim Groshek is like the Brandon Sanderson of nonfiction writing.
I love that you said Brandon Sanderson. We're going to have a whole separate conversation about that, especially his contributions in the Robert Jordan world.
And this is it. Like, I think a lot of authors, when they go and write a book, they think, oh, well, I launched it, it's out in the world and that's where I'm done. And they forget that there's this very long tail of continuing to market, continuing to get reviews, especially when the book isn't really the business. Just like your business is executive coaching and helping others through this work and doing the speeches and continuing the motivational piece. If you just had the book and the book was supposed to just stand alone, okay, cool. But now you need to make sure the book continues to have a life. And I think the reviews really help with that. And the sale does that, exactly that.
Well, my best friend said it best, because, it was a long journey to get the book to be born. And, but she said it best, like, publishing is great. You're going to check it off the bat, but that's not the end. That's the beginning. And she's absolutely right. So she and I wrote my first book together back in 2018. So we've been through this journey, and you're absolutely right. Like, giving birth is one thing, giving it life is another.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and you asked me, you're like, oh, you have so many books. Which book are you promoting in the sale? And I say, I always consistently promote the same one, which is Chameleon Mindset. One, because it is the backbone of my coaching methodology, but two, because I figure one of the most, probably well-known mindset books is Think and Grow Rich. And that book's over 100 years old, right? People don't go, oh man, well, it's 100 years old. We don't read it anymore. They still go, this is kind of good stuff. We need to learn about masterminds and all these different philosophies. And so I want my book to be that book. In 100 years, I want people to still be talking about it. And that means I've got to keep getting reviews and keep going through this process so that it always stays, front of mind for people as they're going through different times of change and transformation. I like one thing that you talked about is really about the title of your book, because you said some people, when you went to give kind of that first talk on it, the dominate part was the part that for some people kind of held them back. So maybe talk a little bit about that, because that part I loved and resonated with.
When I was many years ago messing around with the title of this book, I started out with the concept of permission to succeed. And my best friend is the same person said, succeed. I don't want to succeed. I want to dominate. I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna go with that. But I'll tell you that even at times the title was even a little much for me, right? I had to like really embrace that and kind of and then I ended up putting it all together, right? Permission to dominate your success. And that kind of made me feel like, yeah, like this is exactly the mode that I want to be in, because this isn't about dominating others, right? This isn't whips and chains and secret rooms. This is about uh, being able to take control over what we own. And so often we have given away power, we have given away agency, we've given away authority. Uh, and this is about taking it back, about realizing that certain things really do belong to you, and you get to own it, you get to build it, you get to create it, you get to give it life, you get to dominate it.
Oh, that's so perfect. And I really like that, giving people back their agency. I think when people put labels on things as if this thing happened and now that's me, it takes away that agency so quickly. Every time they say it over and over and over again to describe themselves, to get out of a certain situation. And I love that you're really trying to empower them to give it back to themselves. Yes,
Mhm.
that thing happened, whatever that might be, that circumstance, but we gotta move forward. Otherwise, we're going to constantly be stuck in this cycle of kind of victim mentality and not really moving forward. If you guys are just joining us, I'd love for you guys to jump on over to the Kindle Flash Sale and grab a copy of one of the many amazing books that are in there. But of course, I would start with Liz's book, because she's here telling us all about it. uh,
Well,
so
Nikki,
I'd like
we gotta talk about your book too, and I want to say that something has come through so authentically for me, because one thing that's featured in your book are these pop culture references, and even in like the first like 6 minutes of our live stream here, you were already talking about Brandon Sanderson, who's an amazing fantasies author. So you're very like, it's very you, like you're very present in this book.
Well, if I'm talking about being a chameleon and really reflecting who you are, it'd be a little silly if I wasn't my real self. And I think throughout my corporate years in Silicon Valley, that was the one of the most crushing and difficult things for me to overcome, is even in a fairly open-minded place, right? Silicon Valley is kind of thought to be a little bit ahead of the curve. There was still a lot of pressure to conform to what they thought was kind of acceptable. And it was like khaki slacks and a polo shirt. And that did not look cute on me. So I really just took things to another level all the time. And I was in a kind of nerdy culture, so some of that stuff was acceptable, but there was other things that were just who I was that were kind of quirky and weird, and it was kind of, I felt like it wasn't okay. And one of the biggest things I've pushed for as I own my own business, as I go out on speaking tours, as I go help people do the next big thing for themselves, is you got to really be able to just talk about those things you love, because as soon as you do, that passion will connect you with other people that love those things too, whether it's books or who knows what else.
I agree with that so much, Nikki, and it's a constant self-awareness, right? Because sometimes even as business owners, we are molding ourselves a bit too much, perhaps to be in that client attraction mode. I know for me, something that was really important is I always take 3 weeks off during the holidays. And people are like, wow, you take 3 weeks off? And I'm like, when I launched this business 19 years ago, I promised myself I'd be the best boss I'd ever have,
Mm.
right? And that doesn't always work out that way. But something that I've managed to really stick to is I take my vacations, I take my time off, I plan them, because we don't get that time back.
Absolutely. And why am I doing this? Why are any of us doing this? Is
Hmm.
for that freedom and flexibility. And I always work on that with my clients, is to plan your personal time first and then put the business around it. We can make time for a lot of things. I did crazy things in my corporate job. I worked 20-hour days. I took midnight staff meetings. I worked from the airport in the plant, all the stuff. And if I can put that much energy into something I didn't really like doing, heaven forbid if I just do a fraction of it,
Yeah.
in in doing my own thing. And one of the things I love is working with other authors. It's so exciting to see what they put together and, how their experiences kind of shaped who they are today and how they now help people with that journey. And you've got two big books and they're a little bit different, but they're still similar as to who you help. So maybe talk about the different journeys of being an author from the first one to the next one.
you know, the first one was written with my best friend, and at the time we owned a business together. We were doing coaching together. So that book was born quickly. What we found is we very quickly made a list of like the top 10 reasons, right, that people were giving us that they couldn't do something, or the blockages that they were having. So each chapter became one of those blockages. And then it was in both our voices, right? Because as much as I'm a little kid from the Bronx, she's from Jersey. So she's the street smart voice. I'm the gentle voice, believe it or not. Uh, so it approaches it from both sides and kind of gives you this 360. And then every chapter has these exercises, these activities to go do to resolve this, theme. If it's your barrier, whether that's I don't want to sell, or I don't want to do this anymore, like all these different things. And what we would do is we would come together. It kind of like co-working time. And we're working on this chapter, and we both write out our own thoughts and then compare and contrast, edit, and boom, chapter done. Not the same experience for the second book. Second book was born way back in 2019. And the first 5 permissions of the 7 came very fast, right? So we have permission to fail, permission to be supported, permission to take baby steps, permission to feel confident, permission to prosper. Hard and fast. And then it kind of rounded itself out through engagement with others with permission to walk away, which is probably the chapter that I really had to really work on for myself. And then permission to succeed. And there were interruptions, right? We had this massive global pandemic. I moved from Florida to Illinois. So big things happened in between until finally I joined an author's group and said, okay, I need to get this done. And then in 6 months, boom, it was done, right? So, which kind of brings me back to my whole premise of chapter 2, permission to be supported. Sometimes we just need others, right? We just need others to get it done. So very, very different experience in the time it took to put them together. The similarity, I would say, is the fact that they're all written as if I'm talking to you, right? Like I want it to be conversational. I don't want it to feel sterile. Like this is me talking to you. And I remember when the editors had it, they keep changing some of my word, my custom words. I'm like, no, we're keeping that. All right. So it's very, very conversational. And then every chapter has, here's some steps, here's some things, go do this, go experiment this, go track this, because I want it to be actionable. I want it to be a meaningful change.
And that's really the difference with, I think, a lot of the books in the sale is we are trying to inspire action. It's not, hey, look, here's my dissertation and, see how smart I am. It's more of almost transparently how we failed on a lot of occasions of here's the mistakes I've made and here's how you can learn from them. And here's an activity you can go and push yourself in this. And I like that. I think it's good to also explain to people that just because you have an idea for a book doesn't mean tomorrow you write a book and it's all ready to go. Sometimes it does need to percolate. It does need a little bit of time you write a little bit, you think about it, you keep documenting, you do some research, you talk to people, you go give speeches, right? And then the ideas really start to solidify. Like you said, you had the first 5 and then you're like, I feel like there's just 2 more that we need to add in there. And the permission to walk away, I talk about this as well. I say the times I've stayed too long. Times I've stayed too long in a relationship, in a job I shouldn't have had, with managers that were abusive, right? So I think a lot of people will resonate with that particular chapter. So I'm glad you stuck it out and left that one in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Well, what new stuff might you have on the horizon? I know you just launched this book and it sounds like you're busy on the speaking tour. So how can we best support you following the sale?
Well, it has been a wonderful journey. And thankfully the speaking part kind of came first. I was been speaking on this topic now to different organizations, professional associations, whether it's all 7 permissions or one of them that means the most. So speaking, absolutely love it. Virtual, live, definitely want to continuing to do more of that, especially now that we have, the book in hand, or the kind of walk away with the manual, so to speak. And then I have new coaching programs that have come out of this. I have a webinar that I'm having on the 21st of July. I have a group program where we're going to go through every single permission, launching in the fall. So that's going to be a very profound, kind of life-changing event. I've done kind of miniature versions of that, and they've been remarkably successful. So now we're going to go full force. And that's really something that I had been planning and visualizing for quite some time. Wanted really the book to be in hand first. So now that this book has arrived into the world, let's say, now the doors are open for impacting just a whole new group of clients and a whole new group of transformations.
Oh, that is so perfect. Well, if you guys are following from our Business Foundations Collective, we're going to drop all those links into the chat after our live. So that way you can hopefully catch Liz's next masterclass that she's going to be doing. And then if people want to get a hold of you after the sale is done, or right now, because they're following on LinkedIn on our live, where can they find you to connect for more?
Thank you. So LinkedIn's a great place to find me. And then the website's super simple because it's lizmlopez.com. So as long as you know my name, you can find me, Liz M. Lopez. The M does matter. If you go to Liz Lopez, gonna get a little messy. But Liz M. Lopez, I'm there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I found the same thing. If I didn't put the Nikki Green, then I become a famous actress who was on Dawson's Creek. So that's not me.
Darn it.
So close.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Something that I noticed in my book that caused, time and reflection is that you have one approach and then this big pandemic happens and then you kind of have to bring that into the narrative. I noticed that that's also a part of your narrative as well, like acknowledging that. Can you talk to all of us a little bit about how that impacted the thought process on the book?
For me, it was the first time I really stepped away from work and had time to think and process. I know some people were juggling lots of stuff, between maybe kids not in school or maybe parents that were sick or, any number of things that people were struggling with. But for me, it was a time of quiet. And once I was able to really listen to my voice, I found those things that could make me happy. And I realized those transformations, although they were challenges at the time, just like going through the pandemic, they were also times when I came out so much stronger and so much happier. And I really found those grounding elements. And so now, we're kind of in a time of transformation again, maybe a little bit of economic upheaval, political, whatever market things are all going on, AI, technology, that people are in a similar transition again and trying to find their footing. And so I think it's that perfect time of give yourself a little bit of space and allow yourself to really feel the feelings. And then you'll start to come out stronger and figure out what's the next path for you. But it was a couple of months of a little bit of crying, a little bit of swimming and cycling, and a little bit of writing all mixed in between.
Nikki, I want to ask about the role of humor in your work and especially in the book, because you have all these really fun chapters, right? Like the end is living, like you're just reaching out for the French there. But my favorite is RESPECT. What does it mean to you? Like pop culture, humor. Tell me how humor, how did humor support you in this building of the book?
Well, it's one of those things that, again, when I would use humor in professional meetings, people acted one of two ways. If they were leadership, a lot of times they became overly offended when it wasn't a personal joke. It was just that they felt I wasn't taking the meeting or them seriously, right? Their egos got in the way. But as a leader, when my employees came to me and they were super stressed and they were trying to meet deadlines and something wasn't going according to plan, and I used humor with them, they relaxed. All of a sudden, it wasn't so serious because I wasn't coming to them like some sort of teacher or principal or parent and spanking them for being bad. I was just like, okay, well, that shit happened. now, and now what? And so a lot of my chapters are, and now what? And so I continue to use that humor to help kind of diffuse some of those stressful situations, not to not take them seriously. But at the end of the day, like some of the stuff isn't life or death. It is just the next thing that we're going through in our life. And we've got to kind of be able to move forward. And sometimes laughter is the best medicine.
I love that approach, and you're right. Giving them that permission to not feel like the world is ending is so important. I share in the book when my last corporate job, and kind of the right before the end, I was in a conference room from 7 a.m. till 2 a.m. Right, been on task force all day, and then we had to like prepare these slides for the executive meeting, and there were 4 slides, and we're 2 o'clock in the morning talking about these 4 slides. And I remember thinking to myself, we are selling internet. We are not curing cancer. Like, why are we here? And I didn't have any kids, but I had a partner, I had a cat. Like, I want to go home. So most of you have kids. Like, what are you doing here? And look, these were not poorly intentioned people. They just were. This was the culture that they were in. I was newer to the organization, so for me, this is like bonkers. To them, it's like, this is what we do. And I remember having to make that decision. That was one of my walk away stories where I'm like, I this is just not how I want to live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because, I thought that was kind of funny. We're not curing cancer. This is internet. Not so much them.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where people are really going to resonate with your book, and they're going to find those same crossroads in their career, even maybe not even just in their career, in their personal lives as well, is where you're sitting across the table at a restaurant, you're, in a discussion with someone, a friend, a family, who knows, right? And you're just like, this is just not doing it for me. I think we need to.
Nikki, your book talks a lot about different transformations and different people who, maybe just don't need to be in your life, like the toxic bosses and so forth. And I think that it's important to remember that, as we're growing, as we're evolving, sometimes the pause that we take that I see, and especially in women, is that they know that once they take that step, once they go to that place they really want to go to, once they become who they want to become, not everybody can come with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's tough. And especially as women, I think, and you're a part of Innovation Women, and I am too. And you see that we have relationships very differently. Like, we try to really hold them sacred. And it's important because many of us are founders or, integral parts of our community. But there also has to be a bit of space and a bit of boundaries to allow us to become that next thing. There are different roles people can maybe stay in your life, but play differently. And they're no longer maybe the mentor, the, overseer of the things you do. They're just going to admire you a bit from afar, and you guys have a cup of coffee from time to time.
I'll tell you, there's been a couple of my clients that I have graduated on, right? One in particular is also a coach, and we did a lot of great work over the past 5 years, but now we've come to the point where I am treating her as a peer. Like, look, you've grown, you've built, you've done the things, you've built the things, and now I want to invite you to this conversation differently. And I think it's important that we are mindful of that, not only in terms of who are the people around us, and what boundaries do we need to set, or where do we need to be closer, where do we need to set boundaries, but also who do we need to bring up, who do we need to release, how do we need to change some of the relationships that we've kind of driven, and what do they need to look like now?
Yeah, I definitely found that a lot during my corporate career as well is, an employee would work for me, they do really wait and they'd go to another department and then they do really well there and they would start to move up and they'd want to still come back, for the same kind of advice. And I'm like, yeah, you've kind of moved on and you're doing new things. I can now give you a different level of advice and different level of mentorship. But, it's not like it was before when you were kind of just starting out and, doing sort of entry level IC work. You're a manager now. You need different skills. And here's kind of the different conversation we can have. So I like that of kind of reframing the relationship. It's not goodbye forever all the time. Sometimes it's just, okay, but we need to kind of interact a little bit differently. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, time flies when we're having fun. It has been a joy to get to know you a little bit better. I'm glad to know we're neighbors, so we're going to hang out sometime in person somehow.
We definitely are.
If you guys haven't grabbed Liz's book yet, it's called Permission to Dominate Your Success. You can grab it on the Kindle Flash Sale at kindleflashsale.com/Nikki. You can also grab a copy of my amazing book, Chameleon Mindset, if you have not yet worked into how to creatively adapt to your environment. And a lot of other amazing books. We're going to be interviewing some other authors throughout the week, so stay tuned for those other live streams. Liz, any wonderful other parting thoughts today, other than it's probably time to jump in the pool here in Chicago because it's quite warm?
Yes. So I want everybody to know that, first of all, even if your original dream can't be manifested the way you thought, there's always pieces of it that you can. It is valuable, it matters. And ultimately, when it comes to building your success, the only permission you need is your own.
Beautiful. Mic drop. And this is why she does what she does, kids. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Liz. Thank you guys all for joining the live stream. We'll leave up the recording on our channels and we'll be sharing it across our newsletter and other kind of cool stuff in case you missed it live, because, we don't want you guys to miss out on not just the amazing Liz Lopez, but also on her book and the Kindle Flash Sale. But thank you guys all for joining today's author-led live stream, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks, Liz.
Bye, everyone.